Hey everyone, this is Christy, and we're going to get started in 4 minutes. So if you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to introduce yourself. You can just drop it in the chat. Let us know where you're logging in from. Let us know what your role is. We'd also love to know anything that's about your strength or something that is a skill that you'd be interested in sharing with this community of learners. Yeah, and we'll just get started here in a minute. Just me, Christy again. Got another minute or two. We have almost 200 people registered. I don't anticipate that many will make their way to us today, but sorry, I'm trying to turn off all my messages. But we're going to give them a chance to get on, and we know that some people are having a little bit trouble with Zoom, but we will start here in about 1 or 2 minutes. I had something else I wanted to tell you, but I can't remember. Oh, I know. We are totally flexible. We are totally um, just gracious with ourselves. I have a new puppy. I am like not sure how this is going to go. We're all just pivoting and figuring it out. So just know that Tony and Ashley from my team are both on and monitoring the chat and can help in any way that's possible. So you can private chat Ashley Lyons or private chat Tony Ann, or just put it out in the group chat and they will find it. So if you're having any trouble hearing, seeing, have a question about tonight, just drop it in the chat. You can also unmute yourself at any time or put your video on. I just sort of closed it all down just while people were coming in, but I really want this to be interactive and not just me talking at you. So make sure that you can hear me, that you can see, turn on your videos, say hello, whatever you like. We'll get started in just a minute. There you all beautiful people are. Oh, so many of my friends. I'm going to be so giddy, I'm not going to be able to talk. And so just so you know, like lighting is important, having a quiet space is important, being grounded and prepared is important to teach online. I am none of those things tonight. So I am not modeling. I only preach. I do not practice. And anybody that knows me, just know that's how it goes. All right? So, oh, I just want to say hello to each one of you. This is like so overwhelming, I might cry. So I'll just sit here for a minute. Okay. Just so amazing group of people. I haven't seen some of you in like 30 years, literally. Leah, what is up? Sorry, just had to say that. And some of you I saw like an hour ago. What's up with that? Are you stalking me? Okay, so a couple of things. If you're new to Zoom, if I'm really big, we don't need that. So there is a thing called gallery view versus speaker view. And it's better to put on gallery view so that you don't see my blemishes. You can just like see everybody. When I share my screen here in a minute and on and off, I'll be sharing my screen. Then all this beautiful array of humanity will go into a column or a row, which you can move around on your screen. What else do you need to know? When I stop sharing my screen, oftentimes I'll come back and I'll be really big again. And if you'd like to see me in full, that's great. Otherwise, go back to gallery view. You can unmute yourself anytime. You can take your video off anytime. As I mentioned, I have a new dog, and so you might see my very poor parenting skills. I've just told everybody, if you've ever wondered, why doesn't Christy have children? When you see me parent this dog, you'll be like, oh, thank God she doesn't have children. That's all I can say about it. Keep feeling free to use the chat. You can introduce yourself, what role, what you hope to get out of tonight. And if you have beautiful children, dogs, cats, rabbits, whatever, they are all totally welcome. We love to see those future revolutionaries there from Alaska. I'm talking about you two. I got my eyes on you. Yep. What else? It's recorded. It'll be shared. If you have any questions at all, that is also recorded. So I was a little ambitious in thinking what I could cover tonight. So you've got questions, we've got answers. I know most of you. Our guest expert tonight, she's not gonna like this, but is Miss Sarah Nichols. And say hello, Sarah, if you can't see her yet.
Hi, everybody.
So I'm putting her on the spot, but Sarah graciously agreed to join us tonight. Sarah's been doing this as long as I have. Well, maybe she's not as old as me, so she hasn't been doing as long as me, but you know, some of those young people, they come out of the womb doing technology. So she's been doing it as long as me. And she had so many tips to share with you all tonight. So she's going to jump in if I ever pause long enough to let her jump in. And, you can reach out to her and you'll have all of her contact information as well. There's also other people on here that I'm just not going to call out because they're like, I'm just trying to participate, but also do this online professional development, teaching, coaching, therapy, all of these things for a profession. So we've got a humongous group of people who can add to answers. My hope, my dream is just to make you feel a little bit better about whatever's going on in your life. You might be like, Christy, your life's a hot mess. Mine didn't look so bad. And then that's great. Then I've done my job. So tonight, I saw so many people. One of my friends, Jen Newton, was talking about, pivoting and having to do things differently, like, work from home if we're just fortunate enough to be able to be working. And it's so weird, the things that I'm like grateful for and the ideas that I've had that I've never had before. And so this is amazing, the opportunities, but I also recognize that to take advantage of those possibilities and these amazing things is because of the privilege that I have. And so I just want you to know that that is the lens that I'm working from, is a place of white privilege, and that I am grateful for it, but I'm also working hard to make sure that that is not used in ways that further minimalize or silence anyone in our humanity. So just know that that is a work in progress for me. And so one of the things that we'll talk about tonight is access and equity when we think about online learning. So, but when we were thinking about pivoting, I thought a pivot sounds like a ballerina, like I'm just going to rotate a little bit. But I have been feeling like this has been an earthquake. And I don't feel like my friend Robin from Michigan, great Michiganders on the call tonight, asked me if I was centered and doing okay today. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not centered at all. I'm like this huge peak and valley girl. I'm either like manic, feeling like the world is going to be this amazing place in just a few moments, to feeling like despair that I've never known in my life. So it's like, I don't know about y'all, but I needed a moment to center myself. So this is the wisdom of another Michigander, the amazing Grace Lee Boggs. Whenever I start something like a webinar, a mastermind, an online course, even if I'm face to face, I like to take a minute to center myself and to center us as a group. And so I'm going to pause for half a minute and let you all read this comment, this quote from Grace. Feel free to chat. Feel free to unmute yourself and comment about a hope, a dream, anything that you're feeling, just to let you kind of ground yourself for a minute, and then we'll get started. Any reactions that people want to share? If I look like I don't make good eye contact, I've got a back channel going with Ashley and Tony, and so they may be texting me if they need something. They're also providing tech support to my email for anybody who couldn't find a link to get on tonight, and then they are staffing, womaning the chat if you all need anything. So they're multitasking as well. Anybody want to share just how you are? Share what your hope is for tonight, what your hope is for us going forward. And then again, if you have any questions, small or big, put it in the chat. If we don't answer it live, it will get answered.
Hi, this is Kimmer Ball. I'm in Anchorage, Alaska, at home. And for me, when I think about forward thinking and how this can change our lives, the fact that I'm home and that I have family around me, the fact that I know that families are at home with each other, and the idea that they can be their child's teacher at some level, you know, that the thought that maybe, you know, school hours could even change and we could stay home a little bit more with our families, and that embedded learning and teaching our own children in a day-to-day way is so powerful, and that they got it, and we've got it as parents. And so that's very refreshing to me to consider that as a possibility moving forward.
Yeah. So, and everyone can just sort of hold on to the dreams and share them like Kimmer did. So thank you, Kimmer. It's always beautiful to see my friends from Anchorage. And I'll just try to pause often enough to let people chat, and then for you to be able to read what people are posting. If I don't respond to each thing, just know that we will over time, but I want to get into a few things as well. So I'm going to let you post concerns you have, dreams you have, wherever you are, even just reflections. So again, you can turn your video on or off at any point. You can come and go at any point. If your family needs you, if you need a bio break, if your animals need you, if this is not working out what you wanted, you want to come tomorrow night or the next day, that's cool too. All right. Again, feel free at any point to introduce yourself. If you do have a skill set, there's something that you know a lot about, feel free to drop it in the chat and say, hey, people, reach out to me. You can email me. You can find me on social media. I know a lot about fill in the blank, but feel free to share with others what your strengths are. Again, the link will be shared for all 3 sessions. I anticipate they'll be quite similar, but you are welcome to join more than one, but you'll need a different link for each one, and or you can wait for the recording for each one. And then, yeah, everything I say, Ashley and Tony Ann will be dropping in the chat. So I'll mention a blog or a resource, and they'll put the direct link in the chat, but we will also make sure you have links to everything that we mentioned. So don't worry if you can't catch it. There'll be a lot of acronyms. Technology-based resources have lots of funny names, even like Zoom, and we talk about them as if it's like easy breezy. But if you don't know what the words mean, it can be really hard. So I often feel old when I get on this sort of conversation because people will talk about like Snapchat, and I'll be like, what the hell is Snapchat? And they'll be like, oh, that was so yesterday, Christy, we're all doing whatever. And I'm like, what is that? Because I didn't even know what Snapchat was. So it can make you feel left out of the loop, anxious, like you have to go figure it all out. Nope, you don't. You just have to figure out what works for you. And so we're going to talk tonight about all kinds of different things, but don't feel like you have to do all of them immediately. And then you should have received an email from me that had a lot of question and answers. And if you didn't, my email might be being blocked by your school district. You might use your home email if you have another personal email and re-register or write to me and say, I'd like to use my personal email because I don't think I'm getting them. But over time, you will be in a flow, is what we call it, where we drip content to you. And that means every day, every few days, I'm going to send you another tip. And at any point it's too many tips, just unsubscribe. If by tomorrow you've gotten 0 tips, you're probably getting blocked. I'm probably getting blocked in some way. So that's just a little thing about how to go forward. And then tonight, you're going to share my 3 mantras with you. It's mindset before methods, what before how, and that our EQ matters as much as our IQ. A couple of you may not know me. I may not know everyone here. So let me just quickly introduce myself. These are some pictures. Leah's going to know some of these kids, which is like, blows my mind because this was at a time when we were at the University of Oregon together. But there's some really old ones from Idaho, which I saw someone from Driggs that's on the call tonight too. My husband's from Driggs, Idaho. So my journey started off working with young children with diverse abilities. And so I've always had a passion for very young children, 2, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. But very, very early in my career, I was always working with the adults that were working with those children. And so really my passion has been the adult learner that's in that equation. So I love nothing more than the power of play, supporting family guided practices, inclusion, but I love thinking about it as the adult, the leader, the decision maker, the teacher, the therapist, the family, the mom, the grandma, who's going to make that change, put that practice into play. And so if you don't know where I am in the world at any given point, I do live here in Ohio, but I am from the great state of Idaho. I do hang out in a lot of other states. For a while, I hung out in Iowa a lot, and I had seen this t-shirt that was made in Des Moines, Iowa, that it says for anybody who gets confused by Idaho, Iowa, and Ohio, that it's the great potato, corn, rubber state. So I sometimes tell people I'm from Idaho, Ohio. I don't know where to put Oregon into that mix, or Illinois, or Michigan, or Florida, or other places that I love to go, like Colorado. But for now, I'm from Idaho, Ohio. And my work for many years that brought me to Ohio was I was faculty at Kent State University. And then in 2013, if you can believe it, I left my tenure position and joined what we call the early childhood revolution, or the early care and education revolution. And this comes from Grace Lee Boggs as well. She puts the parentheses around the R because the emphasis is on change or evolution. So tonight, we're going to start off with our first mantra that's just going to set the stage. The other thing about lighting, a quiet atmosphere, and being well prepared is to make sure that your learner is ready. And so we use Dan Siegel's hand model to talk about that the brain needs to be in a place where it can think, where it feels safe, seen, soothed, and secure so that it can take in the content. So if any of you are really like Ashley and I, kind of riding it high or riding it low, it might be really hard on you tonight to think about what we're saying. So just kind of like hang out, get what you can from it, know it's recorded, and that maybe in a week from now, maybe a month from now, maybe a year from now, your lid of your brain is back on and you're ready for it. But if it's flipped, it really can't process it. It can't take one more webinar, one more Zoom meeting. Maybe you've been sitting too much because now everything is at a distance and you're connected to your mobile device or your laptop. So get up, move around, just listen to what we're all saying, okay? And any of you can interrupt me at any point. The other thing is I want you to be really aware tonight as we're talking about what we call your shark music. What is that impending doom? Some people think baby shark music, and we're like, no. For any of you who are really young, this is shark music from back in the movie Jaws, where it's like dun 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 dun, and it's like, oh my God, get out of the water. If you're feeling like that, you're feeling anxious, or you're feeling like, but Chrissy, get to the point. I got to do it tomorrow, or I had to do it earlier today. Somebody's got to show me how to do this the right way. Take a breath and just notice when you're feeling uncertain. Notice when you're feeling afraid. What can we do to feel you just a little bit more calm? What can we do to help you feel just a little bit more competent? Nothing is going to be overnight. For any of you who've been doing online or just teaching in general, how many years has it taken you to really feel confident? Even if you are teaching preschoolers or you're an early interventionist, how many years was it until you felt pretty confident? There's nothing I can do in 45 minutes other than to say to you, beware of your shark music, and then say to yourself, what's one thing I can do to take one step closer to feeling confident? Here's the other big thing. We got to remember that we're adult learners, and the adult brain needs different things than those baby brains and those preschooler brains. And so while babies and preschoolers can pick something up like nobody's business, you show them a new app, a new book, a new dance, whatever it is, and they've got it forever. You show me something and I'm kind of like, okay, can you show me again and again? And will you show me again tomorrow? So it's going to take lots of repetition, lots of different ways of seeing it, lots of different times of seeing it. So be gentle with yourself and be gentle with those adults who are learning something new. For me, I use Zoom all the time. No shark music. But the other day, somebody says, oh, we use Google Hangout. I'm like, oh, darn it. Google Hangout. Where do you get into Google Hangout? Will I be able to do it? Do I have to download software? Do I need a new plugin? Will it work on this computer? How do I mute myself? Right? That's shark music. So if you're feeling some shark music and it was like, wow, it took me a lot just to get into Zoom tonight, then say, great, I did it. That's what I needed to do. Okay. So just, even if it's not a middle of a pandemic, I can't even say it, know that we need to approach life with a little bit more grace and ease. Okay. So here we go. What else did I want to tell you? The 4 S's. I think Ashley probably already posted them, but if we went too fast, just know that we're going to share a lot of links. Dan Siegel was a guest on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. He talked about the 4 S's at that time. He's got a good Google talk, which I forgot to give you, Ashley, but we'll find it. He did a talk at Google on the 4 S's. It's called Presence, Parenting, and the Planet, or something like that, is the Google talk. And he unpacks what it means to be safe, seen, soothed, and secure. That's our number one job. So when we start talking about all these different technology-based resources and strategies and tips, peel it back and go, wait, my job is to make sure that my students, my parents, my staff, my coaches, whoever your stakeholder is, that they feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And this comes from secure attachment science, attachment science, but we are going to generalize it to say all humans need this to move forward. And so that was our first mantra, which is always thinking about our mindset before methods. So let me stop sharing my screen for a minute because I like seeing y'all. Anybody have a quick question about shark music, about how our brains age, anything about a question tonight that you want to make sure you had time to put it in the chat, but you were busy listening to me, so you didn't have a chance to write it? Anybody want to unmute and say hey to a friend that they haven't seen in a while? I'll pause. And Ashley and Tony Ann, you guys can unmute yourselves too if you need to update me about something. So that was our first mantra, is always mindset before methods. Methods are how do we do something? And so mindset is, am I ready? Am I in a right place that I can actually help and be of service? Or do I have too much shark music? Okay. Now, since we're full disclosure, this is my other strategy. I also have a bag of dog treats right here next to me. So each time my little puppy says, I think I'm going to stand on your computer and turn off Zoom, I'm just going to give him a treat. So see, this is my parenting 101. If you need something, just get, a dog treat out. Okay, there we go. That's it. Now you know my life. Okay. So mindset, beautiful. But you're like, Christy, we need the strategies. Help us out. So now, before I get into the strategies, I have one more thing, and it's called what before how. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Now, all of this is going to be shared with you, so don't worry about, where is it? Where's that link? How do I get it? We have a blog called something about Miss Scarlet and the Candlestick. And it's a play on the game Clue. And so it's like Colonel Mustard in the library with the candlestick. What I want you to think about, who am I teaching? What am I teaching? And then how am I going to teach it? We often jump straight to, how should I teach it? Should I do it on Zoom? Should I do it on Skype? Should I do it synchronously or asynchronously? There's a quadrillion other questions you're asking yourself. But I want you to think of a framework about how we're going to go about this. And so we talk about what before how. And so we have this thing called significant learning outcomes. And so I have a whole way for you to write significant learning outcomes. This comes from LD Fink's work. And let me give you a visual of it. If you're like me, got too many things open here. Okay, so when we think about this, another way to think about it, if you like the game Clue, right? Colonel Mustard in the library with the candlestick, we would say, okay, I want to teach people to be better coaches. I'm teaching coaches. How would I go about that? The other analogy I use is this idea of a trivial pursuit game. Whenever you're designing a learning opportunity, and this really applies for on-ground, face-to-face as well as online, you want a mixture of learning outcomes. And so in Trivial Pursuit, you cannot win by only being good at history. You cannot win at only being good at sports, right? You have to have one piece of the pie for every single part. So you need a yellow, an orange, a brown. You're like, oh, darn it, history. I'm terrible at history. Okay, but that's the idea of this Trivial Pursuit, is that you need an outcome that's from each part to make it whole, versus just foundational learning or just application or just integration. So even if you only have a half an hour, or if you have a whole semester, you're thinking about, do I have outcomes that touch on all pieces of this taxonomy? Or you can think of it as the Trivial Pursuit game, whatever kind of helps you. And so what I've given you, or Ashley's giving it to you, And my dog's doing something. So the treats didn't work. So I got to check it out. So bear with me while it looked like the Blair Witch Project. Is that you are going to have this document. And this document is going to help you have examples. He's behind my speaker. Y'all don't need to know this. And what we did was we took the topic of authentic assessment. So again, I always draw from what I already know when I'm trying to learn something new. So I know a lot about authentic assessment, but I don't maybe know a lot about how to write significant learning outcomes. So what I did was I took each of those parts of the taxonomy. So remember, we had foundational, application, integration, and so forth, right? You see them all 6 there. In this download, we have foundation, application, integration, human dimension, right? So you get it, all 6 of them. And then we took and we made a significant learning outcome. Participants will learn, fill in the blank. And then we gave you an example in the bullet. So if I'm teaching about authentic assessment, I would say participants will learn how they prefer to assess children. Participants will gain a better understanding of the importance of asking open, honest questions when interviewing families. Participants will gain the skills to better interact with and assess children who are English language learners. Any of those outcomes would fall under this human dimension. So what we're talking about right at this point is the mantra of what before how, and the what is a significant learning outcome. And we use L.D. Fink's taxonomy to give us 6 types of significant learning outcomes. And then we will give you a blog that describes all of this. And we're giving you this download that gives you tons of examples of significant learning outcomes. And that allows you to have the what part before you go and try to figure out the how. So let me pause again and check in with your faces and or the chat. How are you doing? You want to do a thumbs up? So? Thumbs down? Okay, good. Got a couple thumbs up. Appreciate that.
Hey, Chrissy, it's Sarah. Oh,
yeah.
I just wanted to chime in and maybe just been paying attention to the chat. And I think the resource that you're sharing here is tremendous in helping us think about, what it is we're trying to accomplish, why we're trying to accomplish it, and can help us think about the different platforms and the tools we might want to use to help us reach our objectives.
Yes.
One of the things that I noticed Susan commented on, and I would say I'm feeling the same way, and I think some other people may have chimed in, but that we right now are getting so many resources.
Yes.
From so many different places, all great places. But we're kind of spinning in a lot of different ways, just trying to figure out our personal lives, our professional lives, things we're trying to learn, things that we're trying to teach. And so I thought maybe we could, I don't know if kind of what your agenda is for what's on the next slide or where we're going next, but if we had some time today to pause and just think about, we know from adult learning principles that this is just one opportunity, and I know you're gonna provide some additional tips and resources kind of on an ongoing basis, but is there a connectivity, that human element that we can maybe think about if somebody identified that this was something they wanted to try, or maybe there was something else that they've recently got on their feed that they wanted to try, that we could think about how we can support each other in practice and actually trying something new and reflecting with somebody else above and beyond what we're gaining tonight together and or what we're gaining in our inbox every day.
Yeah, so let me reframe it and see if I understood you, Sarah. Sometimes it's so much input, like people are doing output, so we're getting input, but we would like more back and forth.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I mean, today's purpose may be for kind of that foundational, here's some things to think about, but I also want to think about where do we go next, in whether it's finding somebody else that that's on this call or participating in another call and getting some of the same resources, or thinking about If there's something that you want to try and want to reflect with a professional who's maybe not on this call, how you can build in some, or start to think about ways you might build in some supports to help you identify, even if it's just one thing that you hear today or from another resource that you've gained, almost like an action plan for ourselves, and allow ourselves the time to try something new and be patient with our practices as we're learning something new. Just like we would expect students or families to take the time to be gracious with themselves while they're trying and learning new things.
People jump in. What are your thoughts? I have things, but I always talk. So what would be helpful? What would you like to do? What are you thinking you might do next? And it's okay not to know just yet, but it's okay to have an idea. Drop it in the chat or unmute yourself.
Hey, Sarah and Christy, this is Stephanie from Illinois. I think we're dealing with a lot of what Sarah's talking about. We are having to now shift roles. We use both Zoom and Adobe for our professional development. So we have a lot of people who are very comfortable with Adobe and not comfortable in making that shift to Zoom.
Okay.
And this is kind of forcing people now to use both for meetings and for professional development as well. So it's a moment of uncomfortableness, but it's also a moment of just take a baby step, and we can't get together, so let's use this to the best of our ability.
Hi, this is Betsy Howe, and I'm just thinking that how we need to be thinking about providing how things are changing on the ground, and they're changing for teachers, early interventionists. They're changing for those of you PD people who are providing training for them. They're changing for faculty. And so what does that mean? And identifying what is it that we need? Because there are a lot of resources out there. I'm affiliated with the Early Childhood Personnel Center, and we're working on gathering resources. And so this conversation is helpful for me because it's telling me that maybe we need to be providing more guidance on how to do this.
Yeah, I hear you. Others? I want to pause long enough for people to process. Jessica, you looked like you had something.
Hi. Yeah, so I work as a professional development coordinator in Louisville, Kentucky. And our whole concept of what we do with early childhood providers and families is really to be in relationship and to be very hands-on and active and reflective. So I'm kind of just struggling with, we're in this crisis right now and everybody's pivoting to this online platform, and I still can't wrap my head around, is that what child care providers need? Should I pull their focus by sending them stuff in email or designing online learning? Or is there something that's kind of like the what you were saying about the shark circling, like what's that for them? And how do we have a conversation about that right now and not rush into more online learning? So I'm just, kind of listening to other people to see what's happening.
Yeah. Okay, so let me give you a couple of ideas, guys. So the first thing, I'm just going to say out loud so it's recorded, and then Ashley will make sure I do it. We have a resource on how to reframe a problem, a challenge, because when we get overwhelmed, we can sometimes not see a way forward. And so how can we draw upon this thing called generative questioning? So I'm going to put a couple of resources together that aren't more strategies of how to teach online or how to teach, but it's this scaling back to what is even the problem that I'm trying to solve. Okay, so sometimes we're fixers, and so this will piggyback. So if I'm a district and I'm closing down a school, or I'm a teacher and I'm not going to see my children, or I'm an ECTA center and I've got people that need to know how to teach online, or I'm Christy and I want to help, we're like, let's give the solution. I didn't ask y'all what you needed, right? I just said, let's get on Zoom and I'll tell you what you need. Okay. Now, there is some truth to it that given my expertise, I do kind of know what you're going to struggle with if you have to teach online. So my mindset was, if you're having to do it right away, here's some things that you can do so you don't feel like you're just failing, like that you are enough. But I think what I hear more and more as the days pass or the hours pass is we're trying to figure out how to be responsive without overwhelming. And we're not so sure that our first spray really actually helped anybody, right? Am I hearing y'all a little bit? Okay. So one, I've been telling my teams in the great state of Colorado is ask questions before you tell, show, give advice, or support. So this is me included, unless you're really clear on what's your what, and you can say to people, if this is what you're looking for, come here, okay? And I didn't do that well. So again, I don't practice what I preach. Tease me off. So there is a time and place to go ahead and step in and be the expert and share some knowledge, but you have to be really sure the recipient is ready for that. The other thing I was encouraging people to do, if it looks crazy, so I'm going to use, Jessica, your example. You've got childcare providers in Louisville, Kentucky. That's not a small number of humans. So I want you to go to yourself, can I put them in maybe 3 buckets? There are childcare providers who are doing okay, and they are looking for maybe as a time to do professional development, to get those credit and hours that they haven't had time to do before. Maybe this is a time for them to reach out and join a community that because just for whatever reason. Then you have another pocket of people who are maybe the extreme end of it, where their center is still fully functioning and we're still trying to figure out what does that mean when we're supposed to be quarantined, but we have a childcare that has to be open. And what are we doing for those staff to respect them and take care of them? What is our obligation as the PD arm in our community to people who are still open, whether they're family childcare, community childcare, a school lab? And then is there something in between? And so I would my advice is to, before you try to do a solution, is to not do a one size fits all. Kind of look at your population, your coaches, your parents, your childcare providers, whoever your stakeholder is, and just see if you can sort it in your mind. This is not meant to label or to pass judgment. Oh, those people are a hot mess, I'll put them in that pile. Oh, those people, they're great, I'll put them in that pile. It's not to pass judgment. It's to understand where they are at this point, and then say, okay, what can I do for each of those buckets? Don't make 20 buckets, but make 3 buckets and say, these people really need a community. So like if I think about you on the phone, the Zoom today, some of you are like in the chat, like, yeah, that's exactly what we need, Sarah. And others of you are like, that will be nice, but right now, could you please still get back to the answers to my questions? And so I can hear shark music because I can't be everything to all of you at the same time. Right? And that's okay. So we go, okay, how can I hold space that some of you need this, some of you need this, some of you need this. So here's my plan. I'm going to go back to giving a little bit of how-tos, some practical things so you know what's coming. I also want to piggyback what Sarah said. You're going to get a lot of resources from me or from others. Maybe pick one source. Is what ECTA puts out going to be your source? Is NAEYC going to kind of be? Is the Division for Early Childhood? Just for right now, maybe pick 1 or 2 voices that you're going to follow and listen to other than everybody, because everybody's going to want to help in some way. And then I'm going to listen to any ideas that come into the chat, and I'm going to put my brain together with Sarah and others, and we'll think about what does it look like beyond tonight. And so then you can just stay. Yeah, so Ashley, do all my acronyms for me in the chat as well, because I just used like 12 of them. Yes, thank you, Molly. So if that's okay, we'll just keep going a little bit forward. If you have to jump off at any time, do it. My dog's being as bad as he's going to be, so this is fine. And we're just going to go a little bit further and make sure that you've got a sense of what I can help you with, so that if you decide that I'm one of those voices you want to stay in, then you'll know kind of what to expect. And then for those of you like Susan and Sarah and others that have been doing this for a while, if you have some ideas, put them in the chat and let people kind of go, yeah, I would love to do that, or that would help me know what they would like to do. Okay. All right, so this is all fabulous and good. So let's just, I always like to spiral back, circle back, reground myself. So we started off saying that we have 3 mantras tonight: mindset before methods, what before how, and that our emotional intelligence matters as much as our intelligence in general. So I guess, Jessica, piggyback a little bit on what you and Sarah were both alluding to, and Sarah used the word, like our humanness, the human dimension, is it's just as important to be making sure that people feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure as it is making sure that they know what is high quality early childhood education. So we don't have to feel like right now the PD that we offer or the resources that we share are academic. And Ashley's teaching a group of undergrads. She's teaching them right now on how she does it, I don't know, asynchronously. That means not at the same time. And when we were talking about whether she should be on this call with me tonight, I said to her, your students need you. They've got to be out of their dorms and off of campus by Friday. You might be the only person that knows what they're going through. And so Tony is a student. And so, her schedule's upside down. Last week, she was busy collecting data in classrooms. And this week she's like, what's up? I don't mean to share their personal lives, but those things are kind of like good examples for me to remember that I got to remember about their emotional intelligence, not just their IQ. So that might be the permission you need to give yourself, or if you're making decisions for a state or a region or a town, is to say to people right now, what we need to give support around is their wholeness, their emotional intelligence, or we got to sort people so that we know who needs what. Okay, so that takes us to, do I know what it is I'm going to do? So let's say I've sorted those 3, and I know that their needs are different. This group needs, more traditional PD, personal growth. They want to get better. I've had so many people reach out and say, hey, I finally have time to take your IEP course. How do I get it again? Right? Like they're actually in a place and a space that they can think about their own learning. Like Kimmer said, maybe you've got your family around and so you can't get anything done. Or maybe you just want to enjoy it because you actually are with your children at whatever age they are. So I want you just to be thinking about, what do people really need? And we can ask before we try to provide or problem solve. It's just right now, all of us want to do something that's of help, and that's great. So go ahead. Don't judge yourself if you scheduled 3 Zoom calls and they're overwhelming people. Just be like, it was nice that you offered. Okay, so we've got the significant learning outcomes. We've got this framework. I also wrote a blog, so I got a bunch of questions ahead of time. One of the questions was like, why Zoom? So just like we heard from another colleague saying, some people use Adobe and some people use Zoom, and I mentioned Google Hangouts. everybody's going to have a different comfort level with these different technology-based resources. So how do you pick which resource to use? And so instead of me telling you which one, that link that Ashley just put on how to pick the right technology, I gave an example. I answered the person's question about Facebook closed group versus a Zoom gathering. She wanted to know what were the pros and cons of those. Why would I do Zoom over a Facebook closed group? And so I gave her a framework of 4 questions, 4 things to think about, but I want to offer this up as a framework to everybody. So for example, I got my notes here. So what are you trying to accomplish? So that goes back to what's your what? Who are you serving? So I want to know, do they have access? Are they in a rural part of your state? Are they in, we have problems in Cleveland where not everyone has internet access. And so we have to be very cautious about equity issues when we start to offer resources that are only for those of us who have high-speed internet 24/7. You also have to think about the thoughtfulness of the people you're serving. How are you maintaining their privacy? So there's a ton of stuff that I put in that blog about how to pick the right technology that might be your action step that Sarah was inviting us to consider tonight about maybe that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go listen to that podcast. Well, it's not a podcast, sorry, it's just an audio recording. Podcast is a series of audio recordings. And think about what am I trying to accomplish? What's my what? Who am I serving? Have I sorted them into these buckets so that I can kind of get my head wrapped around them versus early childhood educators in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan? That's a lot of people. What are my long-term goals? Because whatever we pick, are we going to change it next week, next month? Are we going to change it when things are back to some new form of normalcy? Or is this going to be a new way we're going to do things? And we'd really like people to incorporate it as a new habit. And then always think about what's your own bandwidth. What can you pull off? What are your own skills? So Sarah may love wiki spaces. And then other people are like, Sarah, I've been hanging out with you for 14 years and I still don't know how to post my own thing on that wiki. So they email her and they say, can you post this for me? That's just what happens. We just don't develop the habit. We don't develop the love for it. So you got to know what's doable for you, right, Sarah?
Yeah, and I actually wanted to expand on that. What are your tech skills? When you think about what your strengths and skills are, if there's something that when you look at your goals and your objectives, and there's something that you feel like you want to accomplish, but there's something that's outside of your current knowledge base, obviously coming to events like this is one way that you learn a little bit more. But sometimes it's also about finding the people around you that have the skills that you don't have, and finding somebody to pair up with, team up with, that can complement your skills. Maybe you have skills that they don't have and you guys can team up and support each other, whether that's a supervisor, a peer, somebody, again, you're connecting with here on this call or in another capacity.
Yeah, and it's funny because we're just so like-minded. I like to say that. You don't have to believe it. But when I did the audio recording, I said, if you know somebody who's using a technology, that's like my top reason for using it. Because I know Sarah knows how to do it, and she'll answer my email and she'll help me. The other day, Marcia Bloom from the Colorado Department of Ed we were on Google Sites, and I didn't want to tell her, but I could not find the threaded discussion. This is probably 6 months we've been in this Google site. I struggled every time to find it. I eventually would always find it, but it was always a struggle. We were on a Zoom call, and in 12 seconds, she was just showing me something, but I watched her navigate, and I'm like, that's how you do it. But I wasn't brave, like Sarah's encouraging you to be, to ask somebody and just pair up. But if somebody already knows how to do it, then pick that technology and learn from them. Don't feel like, oh, I got to know all of them, or I got to pick something new that's hot. Just pick something that works or that somebody near you already can troubleshoot, okay? And I gave you a lot of other suggestions about like, is there a good short YouTubes on that technology? That's my other reason I'll pick it. I don't want to watch a 20-minute hour-long webinar. I want in 3 minutes, how do you do it? Maybe 30 seconds. So you look to say, does YouTube already have a lot of good tutorials on fill in the blank, okay? Now, woo, time's going. Jump in. I don't pause, so if you got something to say or ask, just do it. So this is the thing Ashley and I started working on. So Ashley and I are both perfectionists. I don't know why I'm dragging y'all in here with all my problems, but I'm going to tell you that that's me and Ashley. And so we started updating this work. So this work was something that started at Kent State University probably more than 10 years ago. And so Sana Haryusala Webb, Ashley, I don't even remember, Ashley, you can help me remember who all was part of this project, probably all the doctoral students at that time in some way, Pam Elwood and Melanie Reese from Iowa, Lydia Moore and Jennifer Champagne from Michigan. There was a whole cohort from the University of Kentucky. So anyway, we started doing this and we published it in the Topics of Early Childhood Special Education, this matrix of how you align your outcome with the technology-based, the web-based, the internet-based, the technology-based fill in the blank. So Ashley and I started updating it today, and then I just couldn't get it done. So it'll probably be done in the morning. And let me just tell you how it works, and see if this helps you know what's to come. And this might be, again, the only thing you do. What you take is your outcome. And this is another reason why knowing what you're teaching is so important, because it's up here. And then down this column in very small font, don't worry about being able to read it, we have all these different technologies. So you want to make an audio recording. You want to do a discussion board. You want to have something like in the old days, a clicker. You want to do a PowerPoint or a version of a PowerPoint. You want to do a screencast. You're like, I don't even know what a screencast is. How would I know if I want to do one? You want to use videos. Like Jessica, I heard a question inside your question. You're kind of like, I want relationships. How are we going to be in relationship if we've got everything posted online and everybody's just watching PowerPoints go by? How do we collaborate? How do we share files? What about big files? What about little files? How do I protect people? How do I make sure that everybody has access when I update it? I don't have to resend out an email that that file's been updated. How can it automatically let everybody know? So I want to give alerts. I want reflection. I want discussion. I want interaction. So you take your want, for example, I want participants to interact with one another, with me as the person hosting, and I want experts. Okay, which technology would support that? And you go down the column and you'll find a big X marks the spot. That tells you that you can use that technology to achieve that outcome. And then it just goes on, and I'll probably give you all a seizure. But you'll get two things tomorrow. You'll get our completed matrix, and then you'll get a blank matrix without the X's, where you can make it a worksheet, where you can put in your own objectives, and you can put in additional technologies, maybe the ones that your district supports, that your state supports, that your program supports, and make that crosswalk or alignment between your outcomes and your technologies. Or you go, I really want to learn this technology because my goodness, if I learned how to do audio, look at all the different outcomes I could achieve. And so it might be worth my own professional growth to learn it, or ask this community, hey, Christy, hey, Sarah, hey, Ashley, do you know somebody who knows something a lot about podcasting or creating audio files and sharing audio files? So let me pause again. We have 5 more minutes until some of y'all need to jump off. Comments, and we're going to send you all of this. Yep, we're going to send it all to you in multiple ways.
Chrissy,
Yeah, Molly, do you want to ask something? I can't hear you, Molly, but you're not muted. Still not, sorry. Keep trying, we're okay. Others can just chat
Yeah, Christy, while she's trying to figure out the audio, I put a question in the chat just about, I know obviously folks are going to have to figure out if they have an employer, a university, a school district to follow guidelines and tools that are permitted to use. But for some folks who may be doing professional development and have some flexibility and maybe don't have a budget or a resource, or you know, a budget for these kinds of resources, does your document identify which ones are free, or does it give any?
No, yes, it's a really good question. So this made me feel old today. So we just put a couple of examples, and Sarah, I can't tell you how many of the things that were our examples from 10 years ago aren't available anymore because it's just rapidly changing. So we did try to put things in the examples that were a mixture, but we did not call out. We kept it more at the format than we did the examples, because you could literally Google best RSS feeds that are free in 2020, and you will find the answer to that.
Mhm.
It's not as vetted. Yeah, go ahead. What was that, Sarah?
Oh, I said, and it'll probably rapidly change too.
It
So
will. It just does. So ask us. Google it. It's not the best answer, but we can tell you which ones we use. We can tell you which ones are free, but you can Google some of those examples pretty quickly. And again, as Sarah said, you know, if you're a social entrepreneur like me, I can do whatever I want. But you want to, you know, if you have districts in HIPAA and FERPA, you've got to be careful about all of that. And that is in that how to pick the right technology. I also go into that issue about privacy. Do you own it, or does the place own it? What happens to your content if Facebook dies tomorrow? Do you want to export it and be able to share it in multiple platforms? What if you quit your job? Can you take it with you? I talk about all of that in that blog. So there's a lot of considerations before you dive in and pick one. If, however, you've got to do something tomorrow and you need a quick fix, you can always reach out to me in our, my group, and we can give you some suggestions. Molly, did you want to try again, or is it just not working? Okay, type it, or yeah, that's the bummer when it doesn't work. Sarah, anything else you want to say about that real quick?
nope, I'm going to let you maximize the last couple minutes.
No pressure.
I have a question.
Yep, please.
I apologize. I didn't know about this until just a little bit ago, and I jumped on. So,
Beautiful.
is there anything I need to do to be able to get this information and the pieces that I missed?
Nope. And everybody may want to know that just because they may not even been paying attention to me, Tracy, in the beginning. That's okay. If you registered, which the only way you could have is that you are here with me.
My supervisor probably registered. She'll get the information.
Yeah, Tracy, do this. Put your email in the chat right now, and we'll make sure.
Thank you.
And if you don't feel comfortable, do it private chat to me or private chat to Ashley, and we'll make sure. You don't want everybody to have your email. Then we'll make sure. Okay. Again, if anybody needs to jump off, go for it, but I'm going to stay on another few minutes and just make sure that we have a little bit of closure, and that you have, I love what Sarah asked us to have, like an action step, so that you have a minute to reflect. So a little bit more, and you jump off if you need to, knowing this is all recorded, and you can go, okay, I'm going to fast forward to an hour in and see what I missed at the end. So yes, everything will be shared with you. You're going to have content that's coming to you in what we call dripped, meaning every day or every couple of days, another tip. You can always unsubscribe if it becomes too much. You can always hit reply if you need to talk about something that's unique to you. I got a bunch of questions about issues with rural areas. So that will be, rural is hard for me to say, but it means out in the country. That will be a special tip. Sarah emailed me yesterday with like 5 amazing tips. The first one is how to form relationships, or why relationships are important. So you'll see several more from Sarah. Sarah also has a book with several colleagues. This is called Growing Together. Ashley will put the link in the chat, but you can see that there are people that have mountains of help, but can also answer one simple question like, why Zoom? Or is this free? So we can go big or we can go little. Okay. So that's the matrix. Then I don't remember actually if I should have put the quiz in, but I'll put it in the chat just in case that I didn't put it in our stuff to do it. If you're wondering about emotional intelligence, we will be dropping and sharing lots of links to how to raise the emotional intelligence of your stakeholders, how to support their wholeness, especially in this time. So we will be doing lots of tips that are bite-sized, that aren't so much, whoa, here's everything I know about this topic in 50 minutes, but just little ideas about how to move through this time with grace and ease, how to not be reactionary, but to stay in your upstairs brain, your yes brain, your reflective brain, how to ask questions that are called generative questions to help people see what is possible. So we are going to go deep into this third mantra, which is that we need to think about EQ as much as we do IQ. And perhaps one of the great, amazing possibilities, kind of like to Kimmer's point, that we may rethink education as a whole, which would be amazing. We may rethink professional development. We may think, wow, am I looking at the wholeness of people or just the competencies and the compliance? Or is this now an opportunity to think about humanity and our wholeness? So that's a fun little quiz. It's paper or it is online. That's often what we call multiple means of representation. So if you see that as one of the outcomes, multiple means of representation right here, that comes from the Universal Design for Learning. That was also in my blog about how to pick the right technology. This is not about learning styles, which has no validity or reliability in terms of those interpretations, but that's another discussion. But multiple means of representation, thinking about some people need to hear it, some people need to see it, some people need to experience it, some people want to write, some people want to type, some people want to talk, some people want it later, some people want it now. That's multiple means of representation. So really thinking about who is your end user versus here's my content, it's bundled, here you go. So you really want to go maybe down that column and see which technologies would help you do universal design for learning. Then, so we know going forward, I'm going to email you. If, again, within 24 hours, if you haven't gotten at least one email from me, I might think, either Christy doesn't have my email or Christy's emails are being blocked. So reach out to me and we'll figure out why. You can also reach out to me on social media. Ashley will put all of the links in the chat so that you can go to it right now and like the revolution on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. There's others, but those are the big ones where I am every day. I blog about this, I podcast about this, I do social media, and all my friends do this stuff too. So if I don't know the answer, which oftentimes I don't, I like to make them up, I will reach out and find you an answer. So tomorrow you will hear a tip from Sarah, who's joined us tonight. And then what I'd like to do is just close with a minute of reflection, and that will come in a couple of ways. You may take just a minute before you sign off, and just, even if you close your eyes for a minute and go back to my first question to you is like, what do you hope for? What are you seeing as possibilities? So what if we reclaimed children's right to learn through play as we're pivoting to all this online and this different way of doing work in school? What if we reimagined what inclusion really looked like? And what if in the end, or in the next iteration of our humanity, we have actually revolutionized early care and education? What would it look like? And so that whatever you're doing, coaching, listening deeply, doing the 4 S's, making an online module, whatever you're doing in the next hour, week, month, what are you doing to create that dream, that possibility of something that is revolutionary? And so if you want to drop it in the chat, if you have a tip for people, if you want to say, I know a lot about Zoom or podcasting, put it in the chat and we will let people know who you can reach out to. Yeah. And then, Sarah, if there's anything that you would like to share, I just think that you bring such a beautiful perspective. You're much more grounded than me in lots of ways, but also very hope filled. So, but anybody can, but I'm putting Sarah on the spot because I can.
Well, I think, I shared a lot of tips. I mean, I think the one that you're going to share tomorrow about the relationships, I think we are in a very chaotic time, and just reflecting on what we need to do for ourselves to help us be our best selves and be available for the people that are counting on us is really important. And thinking about the relationships that we're trying to develop, and whatever our objectives are and the tools and technologies we are seeking to use, we want to think about the people that we're trying to support and what we can do to cultivate the relationships, and recognize that their participation and their interest levels are going to vary. And anything that we can do to find a way to meet the people that we're trying to serve where they're at. And I think for those of you who are teachers who are trying to figure out how to use technology for infants and toddlers and early childhood, it also doesn't always quite make sense. And so, thinking about the teaching and the coaching and the relationships we have with the parents and how we can best support them. You mentioned something earlier as you were opening, Christy, about kind of these times and it being an opportunity. And I heard something on the news recently about how parents are getting a new appreciation for the hard work that teachers do, because they're trying to figure out how to navigate and teach their kids, and recognizing just how hard it is, and granted the challenges that they're facing as professionals and caregivers and all that goes with that. So I just wanted to say I appreciate all of you. I don't know as many of you as Christy does, but I appreciate all of you, the work that you do, the commitment that you have to your own growth, and that you're here amidst all the chaos that you might be having in your own home and your own work life. And I think it just says a lot to your commitment to the work that you do and the children and families that we strive to serve every day. So thank you.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. Be sure, guys, before you jump off, if you have a very specific question, don't feel hesitant to just put it there. That's the only way I'll know what you need, so that I can actually give you what you need. If you have an action step and you want a little bit of accountability, just say what you're going to try to do next, even if that's just breathe a little more often. Or if you're going to try out a new technology, anything. I'm just going to stay on so that if people want to chat or ask me something, but those of you who it's well past cocktail hour, or it just no longer time matters, cocktails are all day, totally fine. Go get off Zoom. You've been here all day, go move or hang out. So it's just kind of open mic. Molly, did you get tech support? You want to try again? No? Okay. No, so sorry. It's so frustrating. Even when you bring the boys in, you bring those boys in and they still can't help you. All right. Oh, puppy fix. Sorry, Kimmer. He went to sleep finally. So I can't go get him. I'll send you some pictures.
Darn. Next time. All my dogs are out of the house too right now, which is really surreal. But next time, how about his name? Does he have a name yet?
No, you all voted yesterday and my husband still can't decide. Every time we give him one, we start calling him that and then we're like, nah, that's not it either.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. We've always rescued old dogs that already had names or were deaf, and so it didn't matter. So this is the first time we rescued something that didn't come with a name and can hear. So it's weird. We don't know what to do.
You'll figure it out, just like all parents do.
Okay. I feel too old to be a new mom.
They'll make you young again.
Thank you,
All
Carrie.
right.
Thank
Well,
you for joining.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody, anything? You're very welcome for everything. Even if you have questions for direct service stuff, that's what a lot of people do. So Beth Diedrich and I did a podcast over the weekend, podcast 40, that we talked about how to work on kids' IEP goals when preschool is closed. That could help. I did a little tip on Instagram Live last night about if you're working from home and your child/dog won't let you get your work done. So there's all kinds of things that we can create or find or just get you unstuck a little bit without overwhelming you.
Where would that podcast 40 be?
Ashley's typing it now, I'm sure, but the pre-K Teach and Play podcast is the whole thing.
Okay.
And then it's podcast 40. And so I'll put it on, Ashley, because I know it off the top of my head. So give me a second, guys. Pre-K teachandplay.com/podcast 40. They all go the same way. So if it's number 39 with Dan Siegel, it's prektteachandplay.com/podcast 39. If it's about behavior charts or planned ignoring, that's whatever that number is. And you can subscribe on your podcast in iTunes.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions, guys, that we can make sure we share out in the next few days and weeks? Anything that your staff are struggling with? Anything that your stakeholders are struggling with? Anything I didn't cover tonight that you wish I would have? We're all good.
Christy?
Yeah, Ashley.
Just quick, I saw that Amy had asked if she can use the same link for tomorrow. I think the answer was yes.
No, sorry. The answer is no. It's this weird thing because this is me, guys. So this is a good example. I like to pay very little for the technology I use, but I like it to be super powerful, which don't usually go hand in hand. If it's going to be powerful, it's going to cost you. So I spend $16 a month for my Zoom account, but I get just by with what I need. That means I don't have the webinar feature. I'm really using meetings like a webinar. So for each of the meetings, you have to sign up, and that gives you a unique registration link, unlike a webinar where there would be one link for everybody and all of them. So just register again for tomorrow night or drop a note here and we'll send you the invitation link for you to register, and then you will be able to join live again. But all three will be recorded, and maybe by Friday it'll be really good. So maybe you want to wait till then and watch that one.
Well, and Christy, I don't know with Zoom technology how it works with the recording feature. If you had the same event, same link, if you would be recording over events, if it was all.
Yeah,
It
could. It could.
Record over.
I record on my computer instead of on the cloud, so I think it treats it as a separate thing.
As a separate, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use it for Early Childhood Personnel Center, and we have the same ID. But it doesn't record over.
Okay, it sees it as a separate session, each start and stop.
Yep.
See, look how much we learn.
Always something to learn, right?
Right? But you got to ask, right? Because if you're like, you think, oh, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And all I can do is speak from how I do it. I have no idea what Zoom is capable of. I can only tell you what I've learned to do for Zoom.
And for
and speaking of, sorry.
I was just going to say, for those of you that don't have Zoom or are curious about trying Zoom, is they do offer a free room for, I think, 40 minutes.
Yeah, like 45 minutes, one person kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So you can test
Couldn't
it
do
out.
this, but you could try it out for sure. Megan McIntosh, Dr. Megan from Nevada, just yesterday did a webinar on Zoom, and she she gave it to us to share with you all. So there's not only what Sarah's suggesting, you can just go on Zoom and get a free trial. You can learn from one of the most amazing on-ground and online teachers, Megan McIntosh, all of her tips for using Zoom. Ashley attended it and really enjoyed it yesterday. I don't mean to speak for you, Ashley. So you'll be seeing that as a tip as well, that you can, go deep on just Zoom. That would be beautiful. And then tell me everything you learn. Anything else, guys? We'll make sure
I
that
don't know if you covered it, but Zoom has the ability, if you pay for the small service, to use breakout sessions.
yes,
You
it
can take
does, Tracy.
attend and you can break it out and then bring them back. I don't know
If
that
I weren't so stingy, you are exactly right. It's got beautiful capacity to do breakout sessions, like little small groups.
And polling features.
And polling and writing on the board and co-editing, like all kinds of good stuff. So when we put on our matrix that, all these outcomes of like a discussion and multiple means of representation, that would be like, the full Zoom. All right, anybody else? Any questions that are coming up? Even just quick thing, I'll just keep talking till no one's on my screen. Sarah, you have to apologize to the other half how long I'm keeping you. After I did the blog on how to pick the right technology and I compared Zoom with a Facebook closed group, the therapist who asked the question just had another beautiful follow-up question. She said, how did you get that audio recording into that WordPress blog post? And so at the bottom of the blog, I told you my steps about how I created, what I used to create the audio, how I saved the audio, and how I embedded it into my WordPress blog. So there's some things that are technical like that you may want support as well, that aren't conceptual of what's my learning outcome and who's my learner, but like practically, how did you make that? How did you get that? Because it seems very mysterious unless you can see behind the scenes. And so you can ask those kinds of questions as well. And I love free things, but the other thing you have to worry about is your end user. If you're sending them over here to Padlet and over here to Zoom and over here to Twitter and a Facebook closed group, it gets really annoying fast. Okay. I don't see any other chats. Ashley, anything that you need that I didn't see?
Christy, I think the only other question you might have missed was some folks were interested in what the topic would be tomorrow, if it's the same or different.
Yeah. So part of that is I gave you so let me answer it and then tell you backwards. So it's designed to be the same, but I get better with age. So it's going to be much the same 3 mantras, same idea that I started with, which was my significant learning outcome. I always make myself set my significant learning outcome before I decide a 1-hour Zoom, was for anybody who is pivoting, like I was teaching face-to-face last week, my university closed, and I now have to do online. Or we had a conference scheduled for April 2nd, and now we have to do online. Or I do professional development and people need something different than what we had planned because of what's going on right now. How do I meet that need? That's what I was thinking about when I designed tonight, was to get you something to get out of the gate feeling confident. So it'll be the same-ish, better, hopefully, but you will receive a recording to anything I cover, including the recording for all 3 nights, even if you register just for one.
Well, and Christy, even if it's the same objectives, you'll have different people with different that, and you're always such a good facilitator as far as being flexible to go where the group needs you to go. So I always appreciate that in you, and I recognize that that'll make the dynamics different with each one.
Yeah, because I won't have Sarah here as my expert, but I have a different expert tomorrow night. So there's guessing.
Who do you have? Because I might want to come again.
Tomorrow is Hattie Harvey from the University of Anchorage. And then I'm hoping Jen Newton on Friday.
Awesome. Okay. I know one of my meetings keep getting canceled everything's a moving target. So I know this was originally the only day I could participate, but I think that changed. So we'll see. Maybe you'll see me as a peripheral participant in the back.
Please, if I see you, I'm calling on you. Just know. And yeah, so Ashley put in the chat how to reach Sarah, and that will be in one of the emails you'll get from me as well. And again, if you're not getting emails, then it's probably not you. So reach out and we will get it figured out. Okay, I'm going to close this all down, trusting that you know how to get a hold of us if you need something, and that we will be in touch and help in any way that we can going forward. All right? And thank you to my friends Ashley and Tony for helping me out so much tonight. And thank you, Sarah.
All right.
All right. Good night, guys.
Take care.